GM. GM. Today is Saturday, 23rd December. Getting close to Christmas. GM. And let's do daily levels. So the market's actually seems to be quite healthy here. We had a pump, we had a pullback, and from what I can see, the OI and funding seems to be pretty. Let me check here. Wine funding seems to be pretty healthy. It's all cooling off pretty nicely, to be honest. So let's take this way. Take Bitcoin off. Take Bitcoin off. So we're going to look at the usual. And there we are. So let's look at yesterday. We had alts kept running up yesterday, even along with Bitcoin kind of going sideways. But then a nice little sell off in alts to take out that heat out of the market. It's pretty good. Funding rates peaked yesterday. They're starting to step down a little bit. Bitcoin back under neutral funding, so Bitcoin looks fine. Like Bitcoin looks really healthy to be up at 43,006 with below neutral funding. Open interest not going crazy. It'll be the usual thing now. Like Bitcoin will do nothing over the weekend. Also, will probably move a bit more. That might set us up for a pullback earlier next week, but seems to be all right. Everything seems to be fine from that perspective. And so take a look here. All right, first of all, we've got Bitcoin holding up here as expected. I think the 44, 45 areas, resistance, as I said it would be, or said I thought it would be, of course. I don't predict the future, but it was just obvious that we probably would find resistance up here. So pulling back from here wouldn't surprise. It could follow the green. It could follow the purple path. And either of those would give, a further little dip and shake out on alts. So be mindful of that. But I think any dips are a buy in around Christmas. And that's the game plan currently and sticking to it. So we'll compare total 3 to Bitcoin, as we've been doing as well. So total 3 just touched off of 500 billion yesterday or 2 days ago. And so let's go 12 hours and see. There you can see now pretty clearly total 3 is beginning to lead. Right, for the first time properly, you're seeing total 3 really break out as Bitcoin just holds up around its range highs. So my expectation would be for total 3 to keep running. And if you look at it from that perspective, if the breakout, so just look at total 3 by itself, if the breakout of this consolidation is where it started to outperform, that's probably where it comes back to on a dip. So if you imagine that it like pushes again further and Bitcoin doesn't go above 45, and then you have a shakeout on alts, it's probably going to bring it back to there before the next move. That's probably something like what I would expect. I think alts are probably going to make a second push today. Got a few of them like ARB, which have had confirmed breakouts now on the daily. It's a pretty big breakout for ARB. I don't think ARB's going to go anywhere anytime soon, because ARB is such, like, it's been so bad. It's very clear that ARB has been the most crowded trade, probably the most crowded trade in the whole market, because you compare it to Optimism, it's actually insane how Op has just smashed to new all-time highs out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere, and really was out of nowhere, because Op and ARB, like, you'll notice the subtle difference, but look at how op was doing a Livermore accumulation, and then it front ran the last touch of the trend lines, just showing real strength relatively relative to op. But look at how steep the slope is. It's trending up, trending up, trending up. Then you look at ARB, and ARB's just dog shit. It's not really even trending up. It made its move up, and now it's making higher highs and higher lows and compressing, right? So it's definitely was setting up for a nice little breakout there. But I think it's going to just be much, much. It's just going to be harder going for ARB. And what you need to look at here is you have to remember that until it gets to 180, it's just all resistance. So it's probably going to continue being messy and choppy, right? You're going to see a retest of that level. And I wouldn't be surprised if op does this, or if ARB does this, sorry, and then doesn't get running until March, around when its token unlock is. Depends on the market, if the market's so good. But I think at some point you get a full retracement on ARB, and you get a flush of all the leverage. Probably, if it goes higher, probably just a retest of the breakout. If it hangs around here, I don't think it'll dip from here. People tend to fade the first breakout, and it usually goes further. It usually pushes on further first. So I wouldn't fade this. But there's a good example of Sol from way back here, right? So if I'm looking at ARB, I think the similarities are pretty close. Where we've got the all-time high, right? You got the deep sell-off, and then you got like the recovery. So if you're looking at ARB, then it's like here right now. And so just be mindful of what can happen within these phases, which is 1, 2, 3 to 4 weeks of chop, but upwards, and then eventually breaking out. And that's if it's bullish. Right? There's no guarantee that ARB is even bullish, but I would expect it now to trade up here, right? Trade in the new range. I would not expect ARB to go back down here. Not after spending 2 months building a base and then breaking out. That's enough of a base, right? Unless ARB is just going to really cock everyone, which I don't think it will. I think it's time for ARB to actually perform a bit. And see here, you had 1 false breakout, 2 false breakouts. So we've had 2 false breakouts, which is good, right? The more false breakouts you have, the better. Essentially, it just means it's been more of a shakeout. And yeah, so I think it looks fine. ETH, again, fine. So here's the problem with ETH, though. Because the nature of the market's so risk on that you would swear, by the way, all the coins move, you'd have sworn that ETH broke out. But now the market's like, as soon as ETH starts moving, they just pump ETH beta. So they pump ARB, they pump OP, they pump Pepe. So ETH's really, really struggling. ETH's really struggling. Even though it's going up, it's looking fine, but it is really struggling. Pepe looks great. As I said yesterday, like most of this initial pump will retrace at some point, I would guess, because it's just too much hype and overexcitement all of a sudden. But if you just zoom out and look at the way Pepe is building, it's building up a nice base for a big explosive move, in my opinion. And Pepe had quite high funding yesterday. Still has quite high funding. OI has tailed off a little bit. Maybe get a bit more of a wipe on OI out of it, but overall, not too bad. It does need to cool off slightly. And outside of that, market seems pretty balanced. Yeah, pretty balanced. There's a lot of fucking craziness going on with meme coins, just pumping left, right, and center. But I think that that's actually it's actually a good sign for the sentiment of risk taking coming back. So when you see stuff pumping on chain that's going from like a few 100,000 market cap to like 10 million, and people are making 100x's, and a lot of people get a lot of people think that's a top signal, but it's really not. Obviously, some kind of short term pullback will come, but that's a sign that the market is coming back. And when you actually think about it, those people can't, like, you can't play with big money there, right? So even though there's like 100x meme coins going off every day, it's not enough actual money to matter in terms of the market. Like, Bitcoin whales are not going to look at that and think, oh, we need to nuke the market, like, time to get out. Like, no, like, people are launching shit coins and they're going from, like I said, 100K market cap to 10 million. But the liquidity on them is a couple of hundred grand. You could not get like 10 people couldn't make $1 million off any of those meme coins in the same coin. Not possible. Only like Bonk, Dog with Hat, and like a handful of others maybe could you even make $1 million, which is a good sign. It's a sign that the degens are in gambling, which brings back a bit of risk appetite. So yes, they'll get flushed out soon, but then it will rotate back into more of the sex based alts, centralized exchange alts, and Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think. And so, like I said on the daily lesson yesterday, I think now every other chain has basically had its turn, and I think now it should be time for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin, obviously, because the ETF's still coming, and Ethereum because it's got the ETF after Bitcoin. It's got the narrative of EIP 4844, a big upgrade coming in January. Nobody cares what the upgrade does, but the fact there's an Ethereum upgrade will put it in the news. And if ETH starts moving, once ETH starts moving, ETH can move. So it'll cook everyone. It'll be slow, but I think when it actually gets going, I think it's going to surprise people. I think it's going to go. It could even hit 3K. Some people think 4K, so I'm going to not go that crazy, and I'll say probably make maybe like 3K. Because I've seen this before with ETH, and it like breaks out. I mean, ETH has done this many times. I think this is one of the times when a bit of muscle memory helps, having been in the market. I mean, having been in the market always helps, but um, when you see it, like, it's easy to underestimate ETH. But what it did was it broke out, perfectly retested. Now it's just chilling outside of range. It's done this many times in the past and then not done much, right? ETH does have this habit of breaking out and then coming back. So it broke out, came back, and just kind of consolidated for a while. But each time it would break out, it would flip support resistance like here, and then it would do nothing for quite a while. It would just chop around and then fucking absolutely smash. I'm not saying it has to do the same thing again. I'm not even saying it will do the same thing again. I'm saying this is very much like par for the course for Ethereum, right? And even over here on this black line, which is actually right where we've just flipped, back here in March and April, everyone was shitting on ETH because at this point Bitcoin's ripping, alts are ripping, and ETH was only like barely moving. So it dropped off, moved up, then it flipped resistance into support here, kind of like what it's doing right now. And people are like, oh, fucking ETH, ETH, ETH. But then when ETH went, it fucking went, right? And that's just how it goes. That's just fucking the nature of ETH, I guess. So we'll see what ETH has cooking up for us coming soon. So I think that's about it. GM. Market seems fine. Bitcoin seems healthy. Altcoins a little bit overcooked, but I think if you've got the right alts, which I think is going to be Bitcoin, BRC20s, ETH, ERC20s, some of the, Optimism, Arbitrum, the layer twos, which I would class under ETH, obviously. I think, and if you're sensible, you're using spot only, and you're keeping a bit of cash on the side to buy any leverage dips over the Christmas period, I think you'll get rewarded with a nice pump into the end of the year or into January. That's what I'm looking at. So that's it, GM. I'll stream later today. Going to meet a few friends. Gonna get absolutely pissed, probably, most likely. So I'll be streaming drunk later, no doubt. So that'll be fun. We'll probably do casual Saturdays, so I don't have to think too much about the market. We'll just talk shit. And yeah, so that'll be what I'll probably do at 8 p.m. UTC. So get yourself a beer or a Celsius if you don't drink, and join me at 8 GM.